Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new year and welcome to the Journey to Fulfilling Relationships podcast, a show that gets to the heart of the matter in helping you lead a more fulfilling and connected life in home and in business. I'm your host, Taylor Tagg. I'm an empowerment coach, consultant, and speaker. Feel free to visit me at forgiveandfindpeace.com and theevolvingheart.com. Our guest today is Dr. Barbara Lowe. She is a licensed psychologist and board-certified life coach who assists women in turning their scars into superpowers and embracing their flaws with beauty and a new light. Dr. Lowe will be sharing with us the heart of her work, provide you with tips today on how to make 2019 the best year for your relationships. So welcome to the show, Dr. Lowe. How are you today?
I am so excited to be here, Taylor.
We're glad to have you, and I want to share with our listeners the heart of what you do in helping women empower themselves. And so give us a little bit of background about your work and how you help others.
Sure. Well, I'm a licensed psychologist here in Durham, North Carolina, right between Duke and UNC and basketball country. Go Heels, by the way. And we end up seeing a lot of wonderful people, many of whom tend to be healthcare or connected with the university, but lots of different people here. I've built a business over time with God's help, I would say, of about 15 employees, about 12 of whom are clinicians, and we heal lives. We see lives healed and changed and transformed every day. We do family counseling, couples counseling. We do counseling cradle to grave. We also do assessment. I have a lot of assessment in my background as well, and some brain training stuff for ADHD. So that's what I do in my brick and mortar shop. I'm also a mom and a stepmom and a wife of beautiful, beautiful people. And, well, wife of one person, but mom and stepmom. Beautiful, beautiful people.
Okay, we established
that. And then one of the things I'm very passionate about is my national platform, where I believe I've been even kind of summoned by a power greater than myself, by God, I believe, even to empower women to overcome the wounds from their past, the losses, the traumas from their past that keep them recycling from one crisis to another crisis, feeling an overwhelm, feeling like an imposter in their own lives, feeling less than, and having broken relationships into living a happy, purpose-filled life. And the way we do that is we go through what I call the Hearts Returning Home curriculum. I'm actually laying down a course right now called Hearts Returning Home, where women can really recover their lives. And it's a faith plus therapy program. And I'm so excited, Taylor. It's taken me 48 years to have this course and to pour both all my training, years and years and years of training. I'm a voracious learner, so I'm always learning and growing. So all of that learning plus all of my experience into this program so that women can have more easily and more quickly what I've had to struggle for and pay for and go to training for and all that good stuff.
Well, I know there'll be a lot of women who are lining up for your services, and we want to find out more about what you do. I love that you're in a transformation, and there's a faith-based component to that. I'd love to talk about that with you as well.
Yeah.
And then also the trauma aspect of it, as far as some of the finer components of trauma and dealing with it. I know that there is one of the best things that we can do is to care for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So can you spend a few minutes just talking about self-care and this concept out there that a lot of people are hearing about now about taking care of yourself, loving yourself? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, no matter where you go, there you are. So you are the one person you're never, ever, ever going to get away from. And the only way to get away from yourself is to do things that are unhealthy, to dissociate from yourself or escape from yourself, such as, abusing drugs and alcohol. So using alcohol in moderation is fine, but we don't want to get into addictions and escape ourselves. So we need to develop a good relationship with ourselves. just like when we have a relationship with someone else, when we have a partner, spouse, best friend, they are communicating with us through their verbal and nonverbal communication. Well, yourself is always communicating with yourself too. You know, a lot of people tune out of body awareness, and our body is where we feel our emotions. Our body is where a lot of our communication with ourself comes from. So we need to tune into our body, soul, and spirit to what we're needing, what our body is saying. We need to learn to listen. Sometimes by the time we listen, it's too late. We've smacked the wall, right? We've crashed, we're burning, or we just went out of a relationship, or we just are ready to blow it and just get drunk or something. And we want to listen more quickly to these whisperings in our body and respond to them so that we can live a more healthy, balanced life. I like to talk about play, and I have an ebook I have out there that's free at drbarbaralowe.com/self-care, where one of the tools for self-care that I talk about is play. You know, play is so important. It was important in our childhood, and it's important now. Sometimes it's hard to play because people don't feel safe. See, when we play, we're being vulnerable. We're vulnerable to something coming in. There can be a sense of we're vulnerable to something coming in and messing with our lives. And that's why we need to have a lot of security to give ourselves to play, to know that everything's going to be okay for the most part. If we're stuck on hypervigilance, we're having a hard time giving ourselves to play. So one of the things I like to help people, especially who've had childhood wounds and have some of those PTSD or complex PTSD symptoms where they're on hyper alert and they're anxious, and so it's hard to relax and play. I love to teach people to play and get in touch with that inner child and set that inner child free from trying to worry all the time, to play.
And what a couple of just a quick things that we could do, you know, suggestions to play. I know probably people are listening now going, well, what can I do? What can I do to be more playful in my life?
One tool is just being playful, using humor, cracking jokes, like this is kind of goofy and this is kind of childlike, but when my husband and I, we like to go to the movies. So when we go to the movies, you know, those new soda machines where they have the different flavors. Well, I love to get Sprite with grape in it, and I call it Smurfberry juice. It's just a goofy thing that we have between us. I'm like, I need to get my Smurfberry juice. And sometimes like I'll hop around or I'll go into the kitchen and slide across the floor like Risky Business style. So I think it's good to just have some fun in life, just lighten up. A great way to do that is to spend time with kids. Get on the floor with kids that are in your life and build a Lego castle or play with the dolls or whatever they want to do. Go to an amusement park if you like rides and let that inner kid come out. I think it's really good to look at if you did grow up in a difficult situation where some of what you wish would have happened was disrupted. What was disrupted? What were you not able to do? Do you wish that your parents put you in dance lessons or taught you how to play the guitar, got you guitar lessons? Or do you wish that your parents invested in you academically or in sports? Well, why not give yourself that now? Why not play for a sports rec league that's supportive? Or why not go back to school and use a tutor? Give yourself that. Why not take like a swing dance lesson or a salsa dance lesson? So we can give ourselves back what we didn't have growing up, and it can be really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're leading right into, you know, one of the key components of dealing with trauma is to nurture the little person inside of you, the little girl or boy inside of you, and to let them know that he or she is okay. And as an adult, you can do that with your inner child. So can you speak to a little bit about, you know, how that may work, or how we can kind of be more in tune with the little person inside of us?
I love talking about this because it's so powerful. Well, let me start out by saying, when you go to the movie theater, you have to suspend your disbelief to believe what's happening on the screen, to go on the emotional journey with the movie. And with the technique I'm about to describe, sometimes people need to suspend a disbelief or a feeling like this is uncomfortable. So I call this self-momming, but with people who have an issue with the word mom, or with men, sometimes I'll call it self-parenting. And what you do is you look for an area in your life where you are having uncomfortable feelings. Go to that area where you're having some significant uncomfortable feelings, and scroll back on that area, and especially on the felt sense of what you feel in your body. And what I ask people to do is to look for memory that is either very young or very salient, or very applicable to this feeling. Then we open up this memory. So we're bringing this memory back up. It's like it's flipping through, looking for the right mail, and then pulling this mail up, or this Word document up with this memory written down on it. And then we want to be with that memory in a new way. So oftentimes it would be, we're looking at a memory of a need that wasn't met, or of a loss or a trauma. For example, one time when my husband, he thought I was mad at him because I'd asked him to turn down the TV, but I actually was not angry. And we were going to an event that was really important to him after that, and I was a few minutes late. Well, he thought I was angry and wasn't coming, so he took off without me. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings we've ever had, actually. And so what he didn't know was that I was just a few minutes late and I was coming down, but also that was a big trigger point for him to pull out like that, because my mom used to do things like drop me off on the side of the road and drive off, or kick me out in the middle of the night, or say I'm going to wake me up in the middle of the night and say I'm going to commit suicide, and then drive off. So this driving off was very much a trigger of mine. And so I felt very abandoned when he did that. So with self-momming, I need to scroll back on when I felt this way before and realize this is not really about Tim, my wonderful, beautiful husband, but it's about this abandonment from when I was a child. And what I can do is I can bring my own best mom self, or an ideal mom, into that memory, or into that emotional state that I'm in with that feeling of abandonment. And I can say exactly what that child needed to hear. I can also bring in God, Jesus. I'm identify as a Christian. Bring in Jesus or the Holy Spirit, and what would God say? What would the Holy Spirit say? And receive healing in that place, in that very memory. And I really like bringing both of these aspects, the spiritual and a part of me, because it reinforces for me that yes, I need other people, but no matter what, I know that I have me and I have God, and that's an army. And so as we're bringing up that Word document, so to speak, of the memory, we'll always know what really happened, but we're kind of putting in parentheses in a new color where those needs are being met. So the story is, we know what happened, but the felt sense of the story is changing, where my needs are actually being met in a way that is powerful and real and lasting, especially when I continue to do this. So that's a long way to explain, to answer your question, but one of the most powerful tools that I lay out for people and teach people.
Yeah, and that is a beautiful, beautiful example.
Mm-hmm.
In my own life, I've had to do a lot of work with my inner child too, and I've been very successful with allowing the adult in me to kind of step back into the picture of when I felt hurt or abandoned or lonely, and soothe that little person inside of me and hug him and let him know that it's okay, that he's safe now. Because
Yeah.
usually the child in us feels very unsafe in some way, and doing that can really make a tremendous difference.
Yes.
You speak of the spiritual component as well in this formula and process that you use, and I'd like maybe to spend a few minutes on how that comes into play, because I know that a lot of us, when we run from our experiences, we go down, and that turns into addictions of all kinds and all that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
really, the answer is to go up,
Mm-hmm.
and that is to rely on the spiritual component, God, Jesus, whatever your belief system is, and allowing uh, something higher than yourself, like you said, to help you. So can you spend a little bit of time on the spiritual aspect and how that plays a part into this whole process?
Yeah. So I remember when I was 19, I wanted to get free innately. I wanted to get some sense of freedom in my life. Looking back, I was feeling constrained by my own a kind of addictive, pre-addictive, maybe we should call it, behaviors. And I remember it's funny that I became a Christian because I was open to everything but Jesus. And but I ended up, there was a progressive revelation where I was able to look upward and to look to Jesus for the salvation of my soul, and to know that I was forgiven, and to be able to forgive others over time, because I love your platform of forgiveness, and I've really needed to forgive many others. But one of the things, Taylor, I found is that sometimes people will come to me for faith-based counseling, and they'll say, I need to see someone who's a Christian because I was raised Christian. And so I'll say, I can do that, because I do non-Christian counseling also upon request. I mean, I do Christian counseling upon request, but I also do counseling where we don't bring faith into it. And oftentimes where there's been a lot of trauma and childhood trauma, God is associated with the trauma and with the parent figure that maybe was abusive. And so sometimes we actually need to take God to the side for a little bit and drop the spiritual talk and work on meeting the unmet needs, time reversing the trauma, repairing boundary ruptures, some forgiveness. And usually by the time we're getting to forgiveness, the person is wanting to bring God back into it, because the blocks to the relationship with God have been removed. Now, some people can hang on to that attachment with God through the healing process. And I believe that the Lord is actually holding on to them, even if they're not holding on to the
Right.
Lord. And frankly, my deepest, darkest moments myself have taught me I'm being held a lot more than I'm holding on, which has been beautiful, because I grew up feeling like I had to hold on to be loved. But anyway, so sometimes people can hold on to that relationship through the healing process, but other times they realize they have a raging resentment against God and need to put it aside for a little bit, and knowing that, or they don't always know this, but I see this time and time again, where as we clear away the traumas, that there's not a resentment against God anymore, because they're able to see God in a new way and receive God's love and God's light. So God is an important part of all that. I definitely look upward. There are definitely spaces we walk through, the dark nights of the soul, that even as a psychologist, there's only so far other humans and wisdom and insight can take us before we need to look up to that grace and that light and that truth and that love. But so not everyone is ready for it at the same time.
That's a good synopsis too, because I think as you were talking about that, as you were kind of remove the blocks, what comes back in is the flow of love. And that comes from God and Jesus and what is above. And I think, and I've seen that in my forgiveness work too, is when you kind of remove the barriers that are there, what replaces it is the love that's there all the time. It's just a matter of
Mm-hmm.
us being able to access it. And so that's
Yeah.
a great thing. Um, Tell me a little bit about the other components of your work. I know that you have an online course coming up soon, and
Mm-hmm.
what can we expect with that? What can we see there?
I am so excited about this, Taylor. Oh my gosh. So in this course, I am, like I said, laying out all the years of training and experience I've had. And I incorporate a lot of different types of therapy into this. Therapy that is bottom up, like more body and nervous system based, and therapy that's top down, more cognitive and narrative based. And there's also there's physiological, there's some relaxation pieces to it. Then there's definitely spiritual, where I integrate in faith, in particular Christian faith. But I think that a lot of people might feel comfortable with it, even if if you're Christian friendly on the fence about that. I think they'd feel comfortable. Anyway, it's based on the acronym Reconstruction, and we start out at the beginning using the letters from Reconstruction, and each letter is a skill that I teach people, or a module that we go through. It's going to end up being about I'm trying to squish it into 10 hours, and I have the last module to do, and so it might be 10, but it might be 11, because I still have 3 more pieces to do.
They can handle 10, they can handle 11.
That's true. Yeah. So we start out with safety and security, because if you're going to reconstruct or remodel a house, and this is a house, my soul is a house, and my house was created good by God, but time and lies and hurts and pains have deteriorated pieces. So we're going to work with what is good, what was made good, and we're going to make it good again. And so if we're going to do that, we want to make sure it's safe. We want to make sure we have all the tools we need. So the first part of the course and the method is making sure we have safety and stability. We have social support. We have self-momming skills. We are oriented to the body. We have grounding skills. We have eliminated unhelpful behavior that's going to keep us just stuck in this kind of escapism and things like that. Then we go in and we, piece by piece, in a titrated way, in a progressive way, we work on meeting unmet needs. We work on time reversing trauma. We work on completing the responses that need to be completed, as far as things that are stuck in that fight flight place. And I use a lot of different tools that are evidence-based and cutting edge to work with trauma, that are integrated, like I said, all the different methods. And then we work on some forgiveness. We work on boundary ruptures and having better boundaries, both in our relationships, and then a felt sense of safety in my kind of 360 felt sense. I have some really cool tools that work with that. And then we work on applying so we've kind of emptied of the bad, and we want to fill in the good, and we've done that some, but we want to continue that by teaching people how to integrate all this information, how to identify their purpose, how to walk in happiness and joy in real practical ways, and how to live out of purpose. Identify your purpose, live out of it, whether it's volunteer or change in career, or really looking at that thread of purpose in my life and how I need to launch anew into that. And then also how to navigate relationships differently. So it's a powerful, comprehensive model that will change, transform, heal lives. And I just cannot wait to get it out there. It's launching in February. And anyone who wants information about it should get on my email list on my website, so that I can be sending out information to you. I mean, Taylor, it's like I feel like I was made to make this course. I've put so much of me into this. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited to see it myself, and I look forward to that coming out as well. And you mentioned that part of this process is allowing us to care for ourselves, to do the inner work that we need to do. How does it translate to our other relationships with our spouses or maybe parents and children? How have you seen that type of the work that you do translate to better relationships outside of yourself?
Sure. Well, with our children, a lot of times we will overcompensate for what happened in childhood and become the too much of the opposite, out of balance of what we had growing up, or we don't deal with it and have a resentment against our parents and end up somehow becoming what we said we would never do. So I see that a lot in here. In addition, attachment wounds, when we're born, we're made to be taken care of, connected. A good parent really resonates with their child and what they need, and really builds that on that foundation of trust, and only slowly begins to help the child self-soothe and be autonomous. But those first pieces of attachment really are, the infant is completely helpless apart from the help of a parent.
Right.
And so if we didn't have what's called a secure attachment with our primary caregivers, we can have attachment wounds, and those wounds are often transferred to our own children without us even realizing it. And so it's really important to identify if we have had attachment disruption of our own that we're still living out of, because that is definitely affecting our relationship with our children. It also, as you would imagine, there's a strong interaction in our significant relationships. Anyone really very close to us, we're going to play out some of those roles. And it's a big part, I think, of divorce. If you were taught that no one around you is really trustworthy, and so you only lean on yourself and you're very withdrawn and independent, you probably feel lonely because you're made to co-regulate, you're made to attach to others, but you are more, you like to do your relationships more like this. That's going to be a problem, because a healthy relationships, you're differentiated, you can be with you, but you can also attach to someone else. So this is where we're too globbed onto each other. This is where we're too independent. And all this goes back to attachment. And then a lot of times it's more like this. One person.
Yeah, let me run after you a little bit.
One person's withdrawing. So we want to heal those young wounds, those internal wounds. And it can come from something like our parents going through a divorce when we were really, really little and being really distracted and depressed. And they did the best they could and they loved us, but they were just clinically depressed and weren't able to be there. And there's no judgment for that. I confess, I've been through a divorce. I kind of repeated a childhood theme of mine and married someone who didn't love me. And I can say I'm happily remarried to someone who loves me very much now and who I love very much. But so there's no judgment on that. But if our parents did go through something traumatic or were having their own mental health crisis when we were young, or even, in childhood, and that went on for some significant amount of time, that can have an impact, and it's unintentional, but it's still there. So we need to look at those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a wonderful description. I think this course sounds beautiful. I mean, I'm so looking forward to it. Let's talk about the three words, I am enough, because I think a lot of people are hearing that now. They're hearing the terms, I am enough, I'm worthy, and they may not feel that way. It may be just a belief that they just can't tune into, or they just don't understand it. So can you speak to a little bit about this concept that I am enough?
Right. Well, I love to say flawed is the new fabulous, which is kind of my version of I am enough, because we're all flawed. We all have weaknesses. And I like to think of myself as like if a whole self is like a sphere, and wherever I'm kind of partial, God is making up for it. That is very, very comforting for me. And also, we talked about we're made to co-regulate. We're also made to work with other people. right? So I have certain gifts. I have certain areas where I'm fabulous. Taylor, you have gifts and that you are using and you're coaching and lots of other places in your life where you are letting your light shine in a really, really beautiful way. But you don't need to be everything for everybody, and I don't need to either. I love the statement. I think this comes from Joyce Meyer. I'm okay and I'm on my way. I think that's really, it's so mentally healthy. It's so flexible yet purpose oriented that where I'm at is okay, but I'm also on my way. I'm moving forward. I'm not staying where I'm at. I'm not saying it's all good. I'm parking here for the rest of my life. I'm still growing, but I'm also accepted. It's a dialectic. It's a truth and tension where because if we go to this extreme, I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I got to try harder, we're striving and we're running away from a fear of our very own self. We're actually turning away from ourselves saying, I'm not okay and I've got to escape me. Well, here I go tagging along with me no matter how much I'm trying to run away from where I'm at. If I say, I'm all good, it's all good, I don't need to change a thing, I guarantee you're going to have some broken relationships because relationships take work. Relationship with yourself takes work. Relationship with God takes work. So we want to be in the middle. I'm okay and I'm on my way. And that's real health. It's in that middle space where it's healthiest, usually for most extremes.
Absolutely. I do like the statement that um, I'm not just enough, I am more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
To love other people, to be a good person, to be a good friend. I'm more than enough. It's just being enough is just like just made it there,
Mm-hmm.
just there. But more than enough is just that place of abundance where it just doesn't run out. And I know that's always a place that we're getting to. We're just trying to improve day after day, doing the best we can with what we have. But that also just gives you some space there to know that um, whatever you do is not just enough; it's more than enough.
Yeah. And then from a Christian perspective, I love that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me because because it's me and God. That's an army and him flowing through me. Then we have both of us. That is so more than enough. So I love to look at it that way. But I also love to look at it, if God were God over nothing, what's the value in that? No, I'm something special, just like you are, just like we all are, and so me plus God is amazing.
Absolutely. And for people who are looking to find out more about your work, Dr. Lowe, how can we find you?
Well, you can go to my website. That's probably the easiest way. drbarbaralowe.com, drbarbaralowe.com. And if you're interested in the self-care book, that would be /self-care at the end of that. I also have a book where I talk about Hope for the Dark Side of Motherhood, where I address issues of difficulty in being that parent that we want to be, including infertility, miscarriage. I myself had a almost full-term stillborn. And so I talk about that and how our hurts can be transformed into hope.
Yeah, that's wonderful. The story of transformation is tremendously powerful, and that I've experienced that in my own life. Being able to turn around a pretty difficult childhood situation and have it work for me now rather than against me. And so I know that's
Yes.
what you do is at the heart of what I do too. It's just maybe has a different face to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just so similar in that
Yes, and I
anything.
admire your work. Yes, I admire your work too. I appreciate the work that you're doing out there, Taylor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's
Mm-hmm.
important work. We've all got something to work on and strive for. And so, Dr. Lowe, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful interview, wonderful opportunity. I guess the last thing we like our listeners to hear from you is just some simple tips that we can, just think what's the next step for me to work on at the beginning of the year, because this is a new year. It could be, fresh and white as snow. You can start fresh. wherever you stand and begin to move forward in a new way. So there's just a couple of tips that you can share with us on just taking the next step, whatever that may be.
Well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to talk about what came to mind this morning when I was studying some scripture, but I'm going to make it generally applicable. So Jesus was talking to his disciples. He was about to send them out, and he said, wherever you stay, let your peace rest there. If no one there is worthy, then take your peace back up with you. So I imagine like these red carpets rolling out of peace, like, right? So like literally like this environment of peace I'm bringing. And he said, if they don't receive you, basically, if they don't receive you, they're not receiving me. He said, while you're there, heal the sick, cleanse those who have disease, etc. And then he said, if they don't receive you, then shake off the dust from your feet. And when I looked at that, I looked up the word in the Greek about shaking off, and it's like a violent shaking, and it's just like done. And so I wonder what maybe the listener needs to shake off and violently shake off. What is not helpful from 2018 that you're trying to bring into 2019? Is it a broken relationship that you've tried to fix and it's just not happening? Do you need to really bury it? And then if it's gonna resurrect, it'll resurrect. Is it a mindset? Is it a career? Is it your side hustle that's really not working out and you're feeling passionate about something else? Where do you need to shake the dust off your feet violently and move on and pack up your peace and go? So that's my encouragement.
I appreciate that. I like to think of water rolling off a duck's back. Just shake it off and it just goes everywhere. And you're ready to move forward.
Yeah.
Dr. Lowe, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful conversation, and this is a wonderful tools and techniques to take with us in 2019. Again, if you're looking for what Dr. Lowe offers, check out our website, drbarbalowe.com, and see all the amazing stuff. And we'll look forward to that wonderful online course coming out soon. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
All right. We'll see you soon for our next amazing success story here on the journey to fulfilling relationships. So long. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Journey to Fulfilling Relationships. Please visit us at journeytofulfillingrelationships.com. We'll see you soon for our next amazing story.